submarines were really interesting too because like we've seen the UUVs, unmanned underwater vehicles, so the submarine drones for a while now, and this was like the first time that we actually saw them displayed in parade, and they have these huge drones that they have the one that is supposed to be able to um, lay mines, and we had another one that's more like has a lot of sensors on there, and they're both pretty large, and so you'd imagine that they can stay in the water for a while. And when people ask what is so important about drones, this important part about drones is that um, you can build as many of them, and you don't have to worry about training the people to actually operate them, right? So there's no limitations in terms of finding enough people to be willing to spend days after days in the water and not having touch with their family. So this actually adds a lot of flexibility in how they can deploy like large number of these underwater vehicles around China. And I think the idea is like when you have enough of the underwater sensors and nodes, you have a much better situation awareness in the water. Against modern submarines, the best way to detect them is just having as many water sensors in the water in that area as possible, and then network them together so that once you do detect it, then you can pass along the information, and then you can send over the aircraft or the helicopter to actually attack them. So that's why, against the submarine threat, having a lot of underwater nodes is very important.
That reminds me. Do you think China took any lessons from the Ukraine war that's going on? Because the Ukraine war is like a real example of kind of the 21st century modern warfare that's being fought by near peer adversaries, right? And there were also a lot of autonomous units being used, like whether aerial drones or naval drones. Do you think China incorporate any lessons from the Ukraine war into their designs?
I think the most evident place where they took the Ukraine conflict into design is actually just looking at the ground forces changes that they displayed. The new Type 100 is pretty clearly developed or designed with the need to combat drone swarms in mind, because it's very much about like having a whole bunch of sensors, and it's no longer about the traditional armored combat. And I'm not too familiar with land warfare in general, but my view of the how people did tanks in the bat in the past is just basically having the best armor you can get and having the best round that you can use to penetrate the armor. Whereas now that you're facing the drone threat, what you actually need to be able to do is use information warfare to link together all the sensors so you can detect um, enemy drones, enemy artillery, or enemy armored vehicles from further out, and then attack them. And it might not be your own vehicle that attack them, right? Like it could be you detect a drone from a few kilometers out, then you direct it to the air defense unit FK-3000 with its micro missiles, and then it can attack the drones with it so that it doesn't get too close to your tank. Or your drone detects a tank from a little further out, then and then one of your armor vehicle can then send anti-tank missile over there to attack it. And if you look at the Chinese vehicles, they're it looks like they took the entire like EV revolution and put the military version of it out there, because they all have a lot of sensors around there, and they're all using hybrid technology, and so that they're all very quiet, and then They also can have lower heat signatures, and they all have like higher power generation capabilities. So um, all that power generation can supply the power needed for all the sensors. And in the future, if you want to add like um, lasers to them, you can. So that's kind of the interesting part. And you probably saw the humongous laser they had in the parade. Also, that thing looked really funny.
Yes, yes. Let's talk about the laser weapons. I'm curious about the laser weapons. Like those kind of things before you saw only in like James Bond or Austin Power movies. What are they? What do they do? What they're supposed to be designed for?
I think generally speaking, they're just supposed to be designed to for the Navy in this case to probably shoot down incoming drones from like a certain distance out, or even I think because the one that we saw in the parade was pretty large, it needs to be able to also shoot down um, anti-shipping missiles, so that um, it can provide a last line of defense against missiles attacking it. So at first, you try to shoot it down with your longer range missiles. If you can't get it shot down, then you use your short range missiles. And if you still can't get it down, then you use the lasers at the end. So that's kind of the idea behind the lasers. And like they have the land warfare version also. Those are probably more to target just the drone swarms. And if you saw, they also have the microwave weapons, which they first showcased in the Zhuhai Air Show. And those can probably get the drones down from like, you know, 2 kilometer out, and they can fry a bunch of them. And the laser is kind of interesting just because the technology behind it has really improved in the past couple of years. And a lot of that also is just driven by various new technologies that China is developing. There's the there's the laser communication that they're working on. There's the lidars that they work on, but a lot of it is really um, just using the right materials, using the right power generation, and and you're seeing that like in the weapon system that they tried it out because you're able to efficiently utilize all this power and to actually accurately focus a beam and bring down targets. Like when you laser something with enough time, it will come down. That's kind of the idea.
Speaking of lasers, whatever happened to railguns? Because I remember China was testing railgun for a while, and then there then there's not no more news coming out of that. And I think recently I saw Japan was also testing railguns. Is that still ongoing? Is that still a thing, or did they just decide it's not? Oh no, it's not worth the effort.
My guess is that they probably still have the program ongoing because they have the enough bandwidth to pretty much work on every project that they want to. Like that's just when you have an overcapacity in engineers, you can just do that. And I think they probably didn't display it because it's just not ready to be displayed right now. Like um, a lot of the stuff that they displayed have been in service for a few years now, you know. So obviously, some of the stuff like the drones, they're relatively new, and we're not going to see them in large numbers until later. That those are just more to like showcase, uh, China's current unmanned warfare prowess to the rest of the. Because you impress a lot of people with lasers, unmanned robotic looking stuff, right? So and but yeah, like I think it's still on. A lot of the other stuff is that you read about. They're probably still ongoing. They just haven't been able to put into production yet.
So what we saw in the parade is actually products that has been service that have been in service in commission. They're not prototypes.
Um, I think some of the drones are probably like they're technically in service, but they're still more of like a testing and evaluation phase. Like they're still trying to figure out how to use them. But most of the weapon system are actually, you know, already in service. So, I don't really believe this stuff about them showcasing prototypes that don't work at the parade. I think most of it is actually in service.
Wow.
Yeah, like
Okay.
again, some of the more scientific stuff, they're probably still trying to figure out how to use it. So, uh, it might take them a few years to figure out how to use it and decide if they want to mass produce it or not. But they are being evaluated somewhere.
Yeah, I mean, this is my argument for why the Pentagon 2027 deadline for China's quote unquote invasion of Taiwan is bogus, because China just need to wait until 2030. They will even have more firepower and more goodies. It's why 2027? That's just an arbitrary date. Um, Anything else? Any other areas you want to cover?
I mean, I think generally speaking, it was very impressive. Like even a lot of the stuff they displayed for the Air Force was kind of interesting, and um, they had their I guess, new generation of aircraft from they always start off with the J-16D electronic warfare aircraft, followed by the J-20 and the J-20A and J-20S and the J-35A. It's kind of like showcasing we have these latest fifth generation aircraft along with these new electronic warfare aircraft that makes them pretty much invisible. And yeah, go ahead.
I have a question. Actually, China also showcased some anti-ballistic missile systems. I was actually surprised to see that, because we know the United States was a pioneer in the anti-ballistic missile program, but from what we saw in the 12-day Israel-Iran war, even Israel had the most advanced, most sophisticated layer ballistic defense. They had aircraft shooting down drones inside airspace of Serbia, inside airspace of Syria and Jordan, and then they have the THAAD system shooting down Iranian missiles, and they have Americans' Aegis system from U.S. Navy stationed in Mediterranean shooting down Iranian missiles. Then they have Israel's own Iron Dome and David Sling and all that, and Iranian missiles still find still enough of them made through and find their target. So missile defense is really really hard to do, especially you are faced with a huge number of missiles. And but it looks like China is also investing in its own anti-ballistic missile defense. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, I think like ballistic missile defense is generally very expensive, right? You're not going to get the right price ratios when you talk about offensive versus defensive because you need a better missile to intercept the missile that's coming over. So that's why it's always been hard. But when you have important assets in your navy to protect, um, and it could face ballistic missiles coming over. You just need to have some to protect your carrier groups. And like I hope we never get to this, but if a war between China and India breaks out, and you have to worry about Indian nuclear weapons, for example, then you need to have some form of ballistic missile defense for your major cities to defend against those things.
I don't think there's going to be that kind of war between China and India. But I get your point, but I don't
Yeah,
think
like my point
there
is you
will
need to
be.
protect the really important targets,
I agree.
which if you let, you know, hopefully we don't get to a situation where that happens, but you're never going to intercept 100% of really good missiles. Like if you face really good missiles and there's enough of them coming over, you're just not going to intercept all of them. Like I'm sorry to tell people that, but you know, China is a big country also, right? Like you can't protect all the rural areas, so um, you need like these really good missiles to protect your important military assets and also your population centers and your industrial centers. Clearly, so they need that.
Anything else?
Yeah, like I just think it was very important to see like a lot of the technology come out. I mean, the laser stuff was very fascinating. The unmanned technology that they showcased was way beyond anything else that we've seen from other countries up to this point. The hypersonic missiles that we saw were like a couple generations ahead of everyone else, right? So they're very ahead in these areas, and the Air Force that they have currently is also um, probably the second largest in terms of size of fifth generation, and and doctrine wise, they're probably right up there with America in terms of fighting modern air warfare. And it's very important to think about this that an aircraft J-10C that they don't even care about, they don't even display in their own air show, was able to shoot down pretty much every Indian aircraft it came across. So like it was that just showcased how good these Chinese aircraft is in terms of um, sensor fusion and being able to fight modern warfare.
That reminds me, AWACS seems to be very important in the Chinese aerial combat doctrine. Even during even the Pakistani-India conflict, AWACS play a role in relaying targets to the J-10C fighters, and we saw some, China displaced some of their own indigenous developed AWACS plane during the parade, right?
Yeah, yeah, I think we saw the KJ 600 definitely, and I think we saw the KJ 500 also. I don't remember if we saw the KJ 3000 or not, but the KJ 600 is kind of important just because you need it for the carrier groups. And if they were to, eventually send the carrier group out, and they really need something like KJ 600 to do the command and control, to do the advanced early warning, and to do the electronic warfare and all that jazz. And another really important aircraft that they showcased was the J-15 DT, which is the electronic warfare version of the J-15T. So it can be launched off the catapult, and the electronic warfare aircraft are very important. Like, the PLA has invested a lot of money into those things, and they're also very hard because you need to stick a lot of equipment inside them, and they still need to be able to take a fly off from a aircraft carrier. So that's why some of these projects has taken so long to be fully developed. And if you look at the parade, they always have the electronic warfare aircraft flying in the front that showcases ahead of the other fighters. That just showcases how highly they think of it.
I'm very impressed with how far China has come in the electronic warfare area because I remember in the old days, like back in the 80s, 90s, 2000, what they did was they had these basically Soviet era airframes, and China was just trying to uh, stick in like Western electronic warfare system into them. But by now, I guess like China has its own indigenous electronic warfare system, right? I mean, they don't. I'm assuming they don't no longer rely on Western suppliers for their electronic warfare parts, right?
When you have the leading telecom provider in the world in Huawei, it makes all these radio frequency related applications, which is generally, what electronic warfare is. Basically, it's to um, disrupt the enemy communications and figuring out where they're from, and then trying to spoof them. That's like that is what telecom companies have to do themselves in all their development. So when you have entities like that, you have a huge supply chain which then you can build upon to develop modern electronic warfare equipment. So that's why they got so good at this stuff, and that's why U.S. government was very anti Huawei for so long.
That's a very good point. Wow, I think we cover a whole wide area of the weapons display on the parade. Did we miss anything? Is there any particular thing that you felt we need to talk about?
No, I think that pretty much covers all the important ones.
All right. Well, thank you very much, TP, for coming to our show to explain about the latest advance of Chinese military as it was displayed during the latest victory parade. If people want to find you and follow your writings, where would they go?
Yeah, so you can find me at TP Huang on X or Twitter, or you can find me on Substack uh, under TP Huang. Also, I post a
Oh,
lot on Twitter normally.
okay, so there you have it. Go subscribe to TP on both Twitter and Substack. He's a treasure trove of information on anything Chinese tech related. And thank you again, TP, for making the time to join us. And thank everyone for tuning in. Until next time.